What happened this week is that here we have been having a lot of rain. Weather is crazy everywhere. But there was one specific day that I went outside and I was in São Paulo city, which is huge capital. I was trying to sense the energy of the rain. And it was not so easy because, of course, when you are in contact with a phenomenon like this, we are talking about rain, there can be winds, so of course it's windy. It can be a very soft, gentle rain, or it can be heavier. But in this case, it was not a storm, but it was not gentle either. It was a rain with a huge load of water, but non-stop, all the time. And I went outside and I could smell the rain and I wanted to absorb energy from the water that was falling from the rain. And then I had to focus in specific ways to be able to isolate other energy. Because when we are in the rain, especially in a big city, because if you are in a farm or in a countryside place, you kind of more easily connect with the energy of nature there. But when you are in a huge city, there are so many other energies that are mixing with that. So I, for a moment, thought of people who do not have a place to live, who would be under that huge rain and how they would be, but then I have to isolate that. And then I felt the smell of the earth. And of course, it's nice we connect with something of nature, but that is not what I wanted to connect with and to absorb the energy. And naturally, I started paying attention and I felt a very deep connection with the water that was falling. And I started thinking later how amazing it is that we may be able to isolate other energy types, and then focus and bring in one specific type of energy that is the type we are looking for, we want, or we need. But in this case, if we connect with the energy of the whole phenomenon, you are connecting with different things. Because the wind, it's also an energy there. When you connect with rain, you may be connecting with the gentleness of the rain, if it's just a drizzle, for example, or you may be connecting with the activity, the vitality, or even the agitation, some of the nice, positive violence that some of the storms or heavy rains can have. So you can connect with that. Each of these are different types of energy. If the environment is clean, meaning clean from energies of battles, people who lived there before, political issues, many different situations that may pollute nature, pollute energy. I'm not talking about physical pollution. I'm not talking about plastics. I'm not talking about any type of pesticides. I'm talking about energy pollution. Individuals or situations that they alter the energy, the information, the quality of the energy of certain places. I have been to some natural parks with beautiful but not nice energy. So in a moment like this, you have to isolate. So I was at my brother's house. I was doing some one session. Some people came to see me there. And then I went out in a break between sessions. And I had that feeling, which is now what I want to share with you. Because I managed to connect purely with the water that was falling, which has a lot of pristine energy, because that water has been filtered in a very special way, because it was collected from a river, from the ocean, from different sources, and of course through evaporation and all of that. When it falls, that energy is closer to an immanent, pure energy than it would be, for example, if you are in the city and you are in a swimming pool. It's not the same. Not only because swimming pool is an artificial construction, but also because sometimes the information that is impregnated there is already kind of mixed with information from people who are close by, or people who go and dive in that specific, say it's a lagoon or a swimming pool, they are swimming there. So that contaminates, and again, I'm not talking about physical contaminants. I'm talking about energetic contaminants. So in that case, when I managed to connect with that energy, I started observing how I could do that. Because in a way, I had to focus. You know, the expression we use that is rapport. Rapport means connection. Rapport means we are doing an energy coupling. In this case, I'm talking about energy. We are doing an energy coupling, like coupling auras, coupling the subtle energy of ourselves, in this case with nature, but could be with another person, could be with a place, could be with someone who is at a distance. But when I connect, I have to put out everything else. So what did I do? I started thinking of how I would feel that water against my body if I were there. But I did not want to imagine, because if you do something like this and you imagine you are, for example, in a waterfalls, you may be just bringing to your mind that image of the waterfalls without doing the proper energetic coupling, the proper connection, so that the energy that you are in contact with and you are bringing in is actually the energy from that waterfalls. And there are some challenges for us to understand here, because there are procedures for us to do that. One of the things that I wanted to mention to you is that energy is all around, and our energy, it's permeable. And that is one of the good things, but also one of the challenges that sometimes we face. Good things because that is a source of experience to ourselves. We may live and feel so many things that we would not if we were just encapsulated. But sometimes we may end up in contact with energies that they are not favorable to us. But sometimes we may be in contact with the energy of a spirit guide that it helps us. So one important thing for us to understand is we are permanently, just a way of saying, we are not, I'm not saying 100% of the times. There are situations, for example, as in the velo technique, in which we are establishing much less or completely nullifying our connection with the energy of environments or people or other sources around. So velo kind of encloses us within our own energy. That's why it's an excellent technique for self-defense. We don't lose energy and we don't gain any energy that is not ideal to us, is not what we are looking for. But on the other hand, because we are constantly in contact with energies, if you just go outside and you see rain and you think, oh, so nice, so relaxing, yes, you will intensify the absorption of that type of energy that you are doing or that you would normally do. And you are connecting more, but that is not necessarily saying that you are intensifying enough the amount of energy, the quantity of energy that you absorb, to the point of being able to really cause a difference in your energy body, to really cause a positive impact in your chakras. So you go, in that case, I started thinking of that and focusing, aiming at isolating other stimuli. So I did not want to pay attention to the sound, for example, of the rain, or to the intensity of the fall of the water. I wanted to feel purely that water. And I had such an interesting experience. But when I had that experience, I thought how important it would be to let people know that it's possible to do that. It's possible to know what type of energy we are needing or we are feeling like having, connect and absorb that specific one, but also letting people know that we may inadvertently end up getting energy from other sources around, unconsciously or at will. And many times we confuse ourselves, thinking that just because there is a certain place in nature that is beautiful, that feels nice, but feels in terms of the physical environment only, necessarily it would be positive in terms of energy. It's not a fact. Why not? Because there are certain of these places where there have been battles in the past. I have been to a very beautiful forest in in Hawaii. I'm trying to remember which island. I think it was not the big island. It was not the main island Oahu. It was on a different island. But it was huge, beautiful forest. When I was there and started walking by, the feeling was not good. I don't think it would be easy for everyone to observe that that was not good, because the vitality of nature was huge. But behind it, there was some sort of population, overpopulation even, in the non-physical dimension, in the astral dimension there. And when I started observing, it seemed to be perhaps those who were original people from there, from that island. And with time, they were eliminated, decimated, expelled. And all of that had been very traumatic. And those people were still there. The problem is not the event that happened. Of course, the event per se, it marks, it leaves some energetic information in the environment. But besides the event, very often when the marks are intense, there can be spirits, non-physical people lingering around because they were part of that. And that was the case there. Maui, I was in Maui. That was the case there for sure. And that would be a place that I would say, I don't feel like absorbing energy there. I don't feel like connecting. And then you can ask me, but aren't we connected all the time? Yes, unconsciously, but we can control that. We can reduce our connection. We can reduce the amount of energy we are absorbing from a certain place. And if needed be, we can even do a self-defense. We can even do a velo technique so that we shut out the invasion of energies that are not ideal to us. And we prevent any of those people around, and I'm talking about spiritual people, prevent any of those from getting energy from us. So we can do that. So in that place, I had to be extra cautious. And then we think, then how will I know how to bring in energy that is the ideal to me? You can bring in energy from a place at a distance. Suppose you went once, let's pick Hawaii. We are talking about Hawaii. It's perfect for example for this. But let's say once you went to Hawaii and you still have vivid in your memory the feeling, the energy you felt. Sometimes we don't call energy simply because there is something we are picking, we are not so sure it's energy. But it's important with time that we start having references and filtering in our minds so that you can be more and more certain. But let's say that you had that trip and you connected with that wonderful place, like I have it in my mind, like Mauna Kea, one of the very high mountains there where there was a volcano. And the energy there is amazing. So there for me, I remember the quality of energy. You know, when you saw a building that is beautiful and you still have the picture in your mind? I have in my mind the picture, but it's not a picture, right? The memory of the type of energy there. And I still have in my mind the memory of the type of energy that I felt in Maui, in that specific area of Maui. I'm not talking about the whole island. And then we have to learn, you and I, and become better and better at registering details of the information of the energy that we felt. Because right there, when I connected with the water falling, and it was like a huge bucket of water being thrown from the sky, loads for a long time, like 2-3 hours non-stop. So that when I could connect with that, and I managed to bring in, to do the absorption at will. So it means a process that is natural. Now I can intensify or I can prevent, like in that island that the energies were not nice in that specific area. So I can prevent the energies from entering and I can increase the quantity of energy that enters. But how? By being aware of this exchange of energy and learning how to use our will, or you will use your will to bring in energy. Some people, they use the breathing to do that. I didn't at that time there in Sao Paulo when I was absorbing the energies from the rainwater. I didn't because I was feeling so clear and the energy was so potent, was so impactful in a good sense that I didn't need to. But you may, and some people do, like get close to some source of energy and almost instinctively inhale to bring in more energy. That's not wrong, but that is not a technique to absorb energy, because breathing is air. And when we bring in energy, it's not with the lungs, it's with our chakras. So it's a different procedure. But because there are some resemblance, like in bringing in air and bringing in energy, sometimes we associate. So it's not wrong if you follow with your breathing. But it's very important that you cannot trust the breathing to know if you are doing or not and what type of energy you are absorbing. So you have to be aware of the energy entering, how it distributes in your body, and what type of sensation it gives you. To some of you, you have already had experience that you say, yes, I could have already felt that. And I think I know how to do it, and I can do once in a while. None of us, we do 100% of the times with 100% perfection. If I say that about myself, I would be closing to myself any possibility of learning more and developing more. So I know that I do the number of times that I do the absorption and that I feel I absorbed. But there are so many cases in which it's not as intense. So something is failing. And that something is the ability to do it. But sometimes it's not only the ability. And in that moment, when I brought in those energy or that energy from the water, I started feeling it penetrating with a soothing feeling. It's not only soothing in terms of relaxing, but also revitalizing. I think that's the word. Because I had been in those private sessions and it's quite a lot of energy that it requires, because that is the purpose and I am there to do my best. So that was really replenishing. And there was a clear feeling of the energy entering. But I have already had situations in which I would be, for example, in a swimming pool or in a certain specific type of water, a lagoon or a spring. I do not want to bring the exact examples so that I don't delay to deliver the information. But I can remember in my mind some places that I would naturally imagine that would be very easy to absorb energies, and I would immerse myself, I'm sorry, to absorb energies from the water. And it can be from the earth, okay, from the wind. I'm just picking water as an example. And I remember being there, immersed, and trying to absorb and not being as intense and as positive as it was there in the rain. Do you have rain where you are? I know some places we do not have as much as needed, or we may be for longer periods without rain. At the IAC campus in Portugal, I do not know if you have already been there, it's worth visiting, but at the IAC campus we have periods with a lot of rain. So the energy of nature is one. We have periods in which we have basically no rain for some months. The energy of nature changes. What does not change is the quality of the energy of the environment, meaning all of that as a whole, plus the type of activity that has already taken place in the past and takes place now with the IAC campus there based in that land. Which brings me there to that specific island, Maui, when energy of the nature per se was beautiful, but it was completely intertwined with energy of the non-physical community, the community of spirits who were inhabiting that area, and their energies were deeply ingrained. Nancy, is it possible to be in that place and absorb energy only from that huge, beautiful tree and all of the grass around? Yes, it's possible. Is it easy? Not necessarily. So now let me explain this to you. This will help you connect and think of the different types of risks that there can be and what you can do. Because let's say you are in an environment that is not so positive as, for example, that one, or not as positive as one would naturally think of. Then, when you will start absorbing energy from the tree, there is a pressure, energy pressure, meaning all of that non-physical community has such a strong presence, and the information, the energetic information of the environment is impregnated with that quality of energy to a point that you just open yourself to absorb, and some of that enters. It is already penetrating, but in small degrees. Sometimes we visit a place and we get a lot, right? But in general terms, it's being absorbed in small degrees. You go there and you try to connect with the tree, but there is so many other things around in terms of energy that you end up bringing in also other types of energy. So we have to be very attentive to this. Very attentive, because you may try to absorb energy that you believe is positive, but you may be connecting with something else that is there. Or even if there is some sort of close by to you, or let's say it's me there in Hawaii, there could be one there, and the connection is too strong. And let's say the individual would be feeling, let's say it's me, I would be feeling down and totally contaminated with the energy from that entity. Then I try to absorb energy from nature. Is it possible? Yes. Is it possible that the absorption is so positive that even makes that entity go away and I feel well? Yes. But it's also possible that at the moment that we try to do that, inadvertently, we get more of the energy from that entity entity may get closer, and then we absorb mixed type of energy, and then in the evening we are going to have, I do not know, a nightmare or some sort of approach of an entity that it's not the one that we would normally have close by. So these are aspects, sides of the situation that we have to know. Otherwise, we think that just because we look at an object and we start trying to get energy from that object, it's purely that one that we are getting. So what I'm saying is it can be, but sometimes it's not so easy. There is another thing. If we go back to one situation I was commenting, that is, you know that wonderful place in Hawaii, and you know the energy is excellent. You know you experienced and you have such good memories and you want to connect. When you connect, it's possible. Distance is not a problem. However, you are trying to connect with that energy that's back there, far away, in another country, it would be my case. And then you have to isolate. What? You are tired. You have to isolate that feeling. There's a noise from the neighbor. You have to isolate that. You can smell the smell of your house. You have to isolate that. The natural smell of your house. Or there could be some other people in the house, so different energetic presences. There can be some spiritual presences that they call your attention. Or perhaps you arrived home and you want to do that absorption, but you came with some level of contamination in your energy. Some of your chakras are with intrusive energy impregnated, you have to cleanse it. So, yes, it's still possible that you connect there with that wonderful place that you know, Hawaii, and you bring all the energy. But when you do, you have to be able to completely stop the connection with all of these distractions and different source of energy, different types of energy that could be around, such as those I just mentioned. Because if you don't, you try to absorb there from Hawaii, but maybe you get 10%, you get 20%. But the rest that you get, it's from the neighbor, from the party that is happening there, it's from a situation that happened in your house, or from a spirit that was already in your house when you moved in, whatever, any specific situation. And that may confuse us. Why is it that we don't get always the same result? But it's possible to train to do all of this. But we cannot train if we are not aware. Those are aspects for us to at least be open to observe. And if we do not know, these situations are possible. Because if we know they are possible, at least you will have experience that you say, oh, this worked perfectly. Oh, this was not so clear to me. Oh, this I thought was good and was not. Whatever. But when we have the information, we learn from experience. Therefore, we start being able to gain our capacity, or to regain, let's say, that we have already had, and we knew all of these before being born, or theoretically we knew. I'm not talking about individual cases, but as a general theory, yes, because we knew the existence of energy. And if we have already had other lives, I do not know how possible that sounds to you, but there are many investigations that point to very strong evidences besides personal experiences of some of us. But the fact is, if that existed, then most possibly these knowledge, these skills are inside of us, but dormant, because we do not learn this. And then when normally we are taught to absorb energy, to recharge our batteries, energetically speaking, or to connect with the energy of some objects or places, we are taught usually in a way that is, you do this and you do that, follow step by step. In my perception, this is step by step, so rigid. It's not so easy. We have to apply our discernment, our common sense during the event. Because during the event, you will sense, I'm opening myself, but all of a sudden I'm feeling melancholic. So then you stop that absorption. But if you are blindly following a simple technique, because it's not difficult, it's simple. But if you are following blindly a simple technique, as if that is guaranteed, that is a problem. Or it happens. What happens to other people that we have seen so many times at the International Academy of Consciousness when we teach this type of phenomena. And I am one of the instructors there. That's why I'm bringing, and I have been teaching there for 30 years. People all over the world. And it's very rare we go to a place that this misconception is not present, because people sometimes, they are afraid of absorbing energy in an environment where there are others around, or if they are in the street, as if they have to be in a perfect, pristine place to absorb energy. That would be ideal, but that's not what we have in our everyday life. The majority of people, really, they do not have this, not even at their homes, because we need to know how to cleanse the energy of our house. We need to know how to evaluate when that energy is more or less positive, because there can be fluctuations due to so many different variables and factors. So we need to trust ourselves to regain the natural, instinctive skill of selecting energies and knowing when to absorb, or when to emit energy for some reason, or when to do our self-defense. This natural instinct or knowledge is completely messed up with when we are born for different reasons. One is we lose basically the details of our memory, kind of have a innate wisdom that it can be more afloat, more vivid, or completely immersed, covered up with the information of this lifetime. And we are not encouraged to explore. On the contrary, if you were a child that you sensed energy, you had telepathy, you could go to a place and feel, I don't like this place, I don't like that man. And later on, you come to find out why there was something with the energy of that person. But if you were a child like that, most probably you are not so encouraged. If you are not repressed, that's already a great thing. And being encouraged is not saying, great, yes, my child is psychic. No, it's educating, dealing with that naturally. It's helping the child to identify what can be just fear, what is a real perception, what to do with the perception, what to do to defend themselves. Oh, that would be a dream world, for me at least, to have a place like this, to be able to be in a community like that. I do not know if you guys know, but I had done huge research about children who have psychic perceptions. And I have had mine, and I know how that influenced me. But I wanted to see the case of others. And I interviewed many in 14 countries to amass information that would be more neutral. And the thing is, in general, we will have more perceptions as a child than later on. Because education and everything causes us to repress or to put that aside. So it's a very important thing for us to reflect about this, about ourselves, and to let come to the surface the knowledge that we have about energy. And no, there are studies. It's possible to learn, it's possible to study, it's possible to get better, it's possible to adjust. If we are going to learn only through trial and error, and lifetimes one after the other, sensing when an energy was good or not, and then we forget, because naturally forget from one life to another, even the things that happen in this lifetime, we already forget some of the details, or we have false memories. So imagine how long it takes for us to learn if we are not pushed into the right direction. And that is why this so simple experience that I had when I was in São Paulo, I think our internet stopped for a moment, right? So I'm trying to pick from where I was. So I was saying that I think how important and how much of a difference it made to me that day that I was in Sao Paulo and I could bring in those energy. Very well selected, like screened, so no other energy would come in. And the difference that made to me in those days that I was in a very complex working with energy with people. So that is what I wanted to share and especially say we do not need to be afraid of absorbing energies. It already happens. We go to a supermarket, we are already exchanging energies with the energy of the place and of the people. You probably already noticed that there are some stores that we go, and sometimes it's even the same chain, but that is specific store, the place, but sometimes it's the whole chain that we go and we feel drained, we feel tired. Like we feel tired with less time being there as compared to how tired we feel when we visit another store, even if it is of the same type of store. And if we start to observe that, we will see also that sometimes we may go to some places, and I'm just picking a store because it's so common example. But we may go to a place and we start remembering sad things from our past, or we get a little melancholic. So that is a sign that the energy there is not good. So we can do something to reduce or prevent those energies from contaminating us. In that case, we're going to do velo. But if you are depleted of energy and you feel you should absorb, you do not need to be afraid to absorb if you are in a normal, look what I'm saying, normal supermarket, for example. Because being normal means there's lots of different types of energy. None is specifically creating loads of pressure on you. You do not have any specific intruder. So it's easier to isolate different types of energy, and you can connect with energies that are more of a tranquil type. And if you manage to set your mind in a better state of mind, in a better condition inside of yourself, it's easier to select the energy you absorb. But does that mean if you think positive, does that guarantees you are going to absorb positive energy? Absolutely not. And I have loads of examples. If you are in a place that is indeed negative, and I'm going to think positive, but if the other ones around, spirits or people, physical people, and if the information that is there is not positive, sometimes, I'm not saying always, but sometimes the pressure of the negative is so intense that it's difficult for us to escape, especially if you are a sensitive person. If you are a sensitive person, you are there trying to absorb energy and say, I'm okay, I'm good, okay, I'm going to put myself in a good mood. But everything of good is penetrating. So it's almost like lying to your. So one thing is think positive, connect with positive things, and try to not let go or just give in to these negative pressures. That's one thing. But a completely different thing is to lie to ourselves. Oh, yes, I'm good because I thought of, I do not know, pick a guru or any figure. Well, it depends how much that is going to change your energy. In some situations, it may. In some situations, it may not. That's why my advice is learn. Learn to sense. Learn to do it by yourself. And if one day you just went to a shopping mall and you feel you got out of there with mecha energies, you want to cleanse it, do your velo technique. You can, there are videos here teaching you, have a course that you can access if you are hearing this for the first time. Velo is an excellent technique, and I'll put a link there for you at the end to see what value is, but do it. We have to be responsible for our own energy. If we are not responsible, not even for that, how can we help others? How can we grow spiritually? How can we have astral projections that we are lucid, go places and learn and see new things if we are not being able to simply balance out our chakras and our energy and be able to do a decent self-defense technique? So that is the idea, and that's what I'm trying to transfer here. There is something that I say a lot, and here's my book, but I only have in Portuguese here. But what I say is everyone can. I do not appreciate and do not agree with any line of study that you would follow that would tell you you have to be special, you need a master. Well, you are not going to sense energy and control as much as Nancy does. It is rubbish, nonsense. Everyone can develop, and we are so brainwashed into thinking that we have to be special, and only special people are really going to have pure energies. And if we want to have good energies and energetic power, we have to be in connection with some divine thing. No, I think we have to have ethics. We need to know who we are, and we need to learn how to grow and how to become better. That's what I think we can and should do, and that's within our capacity. That is what I would like to emphasize. I see some comments here. Isabelle, I used to work from home, and once a week I'm going to the office and can definitely feel the difference. Velo has helped me a lot to manage my sensitivity, and that is a very important thing. I do not know how I would survive without Velo. Nancy, how many different energetic procedures exist and how many you do? I cannot even list dozens. But when it comes to cleansing my energy, when it comes to becoming stronger, to have a stronger presence, or to have stronger self-defense, there's nothing in my experience that works as fast and as deep as Velo. Because other techniques, sometimes they're just palliative. They're just like something temporary. You get a little better for a moment, but later on, it comes back and it comes back and it comes back. And people become dependent on a therapist because they need a therapist to take care of themselves. You can, of course, resort to a therapist to help you when you do not know how to do the thing. But you should have in your mind that you can also learn and eventually to be independent, because then you can be stronger whenever you want and you can help others inside the body, outside the body in an astral projection, and be in a better condition after we leave this physical world. That sounds very good to me. Let me get your questions. Thank you. It was a bit long, but I wanted to make sure that I would bring all of these different angles. So I hope you appreciate it. Tatu, hello. What do you think about putting your arms around a big tree? Some say that embracing such a tree gives a nice energy. Usually it does, yes. You know what my experience is, Tatu? We can connect with the energy of the tree by embracing. It makes it easier, but not because we are closer, but because by sensing the bark of the tree against our skin, or even smelling the scent that comes from the leaves, all of that helps us to connect. It's a psychological process, but helps the connection, the rapport that I mentioned, or the energetic coupling that I mentioned in the beginning. Having said that, I do this. Sometimes I do not hug, I just get close. I prefer, so I'm not distracted with the feeling of the physical body. So I prefer to get close, to sense, and gently befriend the tree and see how it will go, how much of energy. And an amazing factor is that you may be with a huge tree, but a huge tree may allow you to sense less energy or pick less of its energy than a small young tree. I have already tried to examine loads. Why is that? Because I visited the Sequoia Park in California, and I was so certain that I would feel the strongest energy ever. It's energy from plants, but it was not true. And I kept analyzing and seeing which chakra of mine would feel and why. It's because those trees, they grow to be super protected. Their energies are more enclosed. We can sense, but it takes longer time for us to be able to establish the connection. Why are they like this? Because they survive fires, natural fires that would happen in the forest. That's why they live for so long. So we start seeing that there is something of the personality, of course, between commas, between quotations, but the personality of that tree. So some give more energy, some give less. And some may be in a place where people go there to have a trip. And a trip that's not always so good and positive. Or people go there and sit to cry out all of their problems and feel bad. So you may try to connect with the energy of the tree and end up connecting with something that is close by. But yes, what you said is good, possible, always with common sense, discernment, good critical analysis. Okay? Do we have any other question? How to help an animal that had absorbed negative energy? That's a very interesting question. Juliana is there helping us, so she is from the IAC team, giving us a hand. That's an interesting question because some animals are very sensitive. There are animals, pets, let me just put pets, but can be any, that are more sensitive than others. And their personality, you all know that, varies from one to another. So it's not just saying all of these are good dogs. You can have one that become a killer, or this huge dog is a killer. No, it's just strong, has some instinct, but it may be a gentle personality. Why do I say that? Because some animals are more psychic than others, more sensitive to energy than others. And as any human being, either they are very sensitive or not, they will pick energy from people, from spirits, less easily than human beings, but still they do. There are reasons why less easily. Because we human beings, we have our emotions so complex that we are able to hate and love at the same time. And because of that, some entities just get close to us and interfere with our field and contaminates us. Pets, animals, usually they have a simpler emotional nature, but they do have emotions, of course. But because it's less complex, or let me change, less complicated than us human beings, intruders, spiritual intruders, tend not to connect with them so easily. But there are cases in which, just because of being sensitive, animals pick that. And they feel down, they may be not so happy, they may feel some sort of pain. Same things that we do. Some animals, they are possessed, and it's not so easy, but it happens by some specific spirits, good or bad, to do their beats, whatever is it that needs to be done. So some animals saved lives, some because of instinct, but some is beyond that. In the same, some animals killed, some ended some lives, right? Killed people. Some because of instinct, but some because some sort of energy was interfering with them, like almost as if they were possessed. So all of that happens. And what do we do to help an animal? Same thing. We go, we emit our energy. And with the emission of our energy, we start being able to penetrate with our own energy the best of our energy. Just thinking of purifying, cleansing, removing any intrusive areas or fields of energy in the animal and giving some more vitality, because usually one thing ends up with the other. So just creating that, and in no time the animal responds much quicker than human beings, much quicker. I had a little animal that I saw. It was in a, oh goodness, what's the name in English? Mortgage? No. Anyways, when somebody dies and you have the person there and family members come and they are going to be there observing and paying their sentiments and saying goodbye, there was a little dog, small one, a black one, that used to live in that place. If anybody remembers the name there of what I'm trying to say, tell me the name so I can verbalize. But anyway, morgue, is that right? No, morgue is where you put people when you are examining them. Okay, forget it. You know what I'm talking about. So the little animal was there. And I arrived because the situation had happened and I was visiting there. When I arrived and I saw the little dog there, I said, oh, poor dog, because the dog was, like this, as if he was hungry, but he was not really hungry. And then you offer something and you play and he would look, and that's all completely drained. That was the thing. And when I looked and I, disguised a little bit because there were other people close by, but I pretended I was petting and I started putting energy in the little dog. 1 hour later, the dog was up and running and happy. I've seen animals that when we remove an intrusion, like an intruder spirit that is there just disturbing, I'm not talking about possession or anything, just disturbing and draining and, bullying with stupid plays there with the animals. Sometimes animals are clairvoyant, some of them, some are more sensitive, and they may sense it and be very upset with that in a way. So I have seen some that when that intrusive presence there is removed, they simply become like a little lamb, jumping up and down and playing, even if they are like older, because it's really feeling light. So it can happen a lot. I hope I could explain, Juliana. Somewhere there, I noticed that the dogs in your house started reacting, yes, when you started talking about animals and negative energy. You heard that. Yes, maybe a coincidence, maybe not. And there come the dogs. Now I'm no longer afraid of them. Patricia, I experienced my third eye, heart and root chakra. Sorry guys, it's so small the font here. I have to increase a bit because I cannot read it. Give me a second. I'm going to do it and read it right now. Okay, Patricia. I experience my third eye, heart, and root chakra are reacting often, especially when I am in nature. Root chakra example is reacting as I sit down on forest floor. I saw this as connecting with the go energy, the geo energy of Earth. Would Velo help me define the energy? I think we need more than Velo at a moment like this, Patricia. But let me bring some different angles for you to analyze. We can sense any chakra more easily than others. Some people are more sensitive in the root chakra, and when they experience any change of energy, the root chakra feels it. And of course, it may be uncomfortable to some people. It's like, what's going on, right? What's going on? But eventually we get used to it. My observation, my knowledge, and everyone that I have worked with, this is more common when we are just learning about energy. After a while, when it settles down, meaning we worked with our chakras, it settles down, we have already balanced out our energy, eliminated some contaminations, then any of those repercussions that are more specific in some chakras tend to reduce, become more homogeneous, especially when it is in the root chakra. Why? Just because we start becoming more active mentally, meaning some sort of energy comes, we sense it. We sense it like knowing why it came, knowing what it is, knowing what to do. It's more mental instead of just a sensation that we do not know what that is. And we do not know what to do with that. And some people, they feel that confusing. Is just my chakra activated, or would there be any sort of a sexual desire? One thing is not the other. It can be both together. It can be only one, it can be only the other. And what I would do is, yes, do velo as you said. Do velo often, like not only in that moment, but often, like at least one couple of times a day, 3 times a day, as much as possible actually, until all of the perceptions of the chakras are equalized. Then it would be more possible for you to say. Because if you try, let me explain my reasoning here. If you try, Patricia, only to decipher what's going on based on the sensation at that moment, you may be deceived by energetic presences. You may feel something is relaxing when it's not. And especially when we are talking about the root chakra, we have to have an extra eye. Not because it's dangerous, not because it's awful or wrong. No, just because it's a type of energy that, because of being closer to the physical body, sometimes it's more delicious to some spirits. And we may just end up doing connections. But being afraid is the worst. So what you did is correct, observing. But see, have I always been like that? When did this start? If it's me and only my perception, it doesn't matter in which forest I will be, I will feel the same, right? And if it's only my chakra per se, I will feel only in nature. But why can't I feel when I am taking a shower or when I try to concentrate in that specific chakra? So look for different aspects for you to observe. I do not know if I could answer your question, but I don't think it has anything to do with the geo energy, because we can sense the geo energy, but not in an intense way like this. It can happen exceptionally, but it's not the norm. And the way I hear you, it's more like the norm. So try to figure out these different aspects. Okay, so I get the last question. I do not know if we have many. And then Andrea, let me again amplify here. Just give me just a second. Can we by will release negative entities? Negative thoughts forms. I cannot understand what you wrote. I cannot figure out the words. Can we, by will, okay, at will you mean, perfect. Can we, at will, release negative entities, negative thought forms? Yes, but it's hard. Because it's not only a matter of us saying, okay, I want to release it. Because there's not pressure. It's like you say, I never again want to talk to this person. This person makes me feel bad. But then the person phones you and appears with a picture in front of you and keeps sending vibes and energy to you during the night. So yes, you want not to think of that person, but it keeps coming because there is pressure. So here in this case, yes, it's possible, but not necessarily easy. And then you say, sending them to the light, like those entities, sometimes they don't even understand, sometimes they don't want, but again, it is possible to do it at will. But it requires some skill. Not difficult, but we need to know how to do it. Velo can regulate the chakras, and emitting energy clears the field, but these energies come back Velo can regulate the chakra. So that is the first part. Emit energy cleans the field. But could that come back? It depends. Sometimes we emit energy and we do, for example, a velo technique, but we only do enough to stop the intrusion at that moment. And then we emit energy and we cleanse a little bit, but we leave the root, we leave the cause there. Oh, but then how am I going to notice the cause? By working deeper. So you sense something, tomorrow is there again. Velo, stronger energy emission, learning how to emit, because there are different ways. It's almost like you have medicine, but medicine, it will be completely different for each person, each situation, and each period according to the technique that is being used at the time. So it's the same thing. It's very complex. But nobody needs a course to do that. We need to use what we have, put energy and learn, but learn by trial and error takes much longer. It's much more painful than you going and studying with someone serious. Because doing anything with energy that is not well done is worse than not doing it. Believe me. And sometimes we think, energy is innocuous, only help. No, not true. It can damage. That's why it exists. Black magic, all sort of not so nice things for us to think of. Fortunately, we have a natural self-defense to some degree. But that is the idea, Andrea. Doesn't make sense. But sometimes even with velo, we do it for long enough, deep enough, and cleans enough for us to completely get rid of the situation and of the problem. For all of you, if you are in my database, you left your name there in my newsletter, I'm going to offer a course exactly about this. How to cleanse deeply, how to find what is hidden underneath and learn by yourself how to cleanse it. You guys that are here with me, if you appreciated the topic, if you like this type of topic and like the video, remember to give me a thumbs up. That is important and help. And for anybody who is here for the first time, I'd love to see you again. Join our live talks. We are here every Saturday. Goodbye, guys. I hope all of you learned something new today and can put it into practice. Yes.